Hi folks, welcome back to part 3 of our 4-part Bible study, looking at the tension that exists as we face a world of complex changes, and we feel so strongly that this ending of the past is just a catastrophic disaster in our lives, and the uncertainty and worry about what the future might bring. Now, when we face the end of the past, it's a terrible, painful, difficult moment. However that shakes out. And you see, consider that our lives are filled with beginnings and endings. Beginnings and endings. And when the ending comes, whether it's a health crisis, you have a health crisis and suddenly your life has to change because you just can't physically do the things you used to do. So you have to make these adaptive changes in your life, and so that old way of being and living isn't the way you're living and being in the future. A relationship catastrophe, same thing. Employment, loss of employment, loss of housing, loss of any kind of major transformative change that happens in our lives is very stressful. And it's important for us to respond to that change with a lot of compassion for ourselves and for our neighbors. Now, in this text that I've been working on in this Bible study from Matthew 24, verse 9, then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another, and many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. Because wickedness is multiplied, most people's love will grow cold. Because wickedness will abound, most people's love will grow cold. That's really what we see and feel happening around us, I believe, because we're in this situation where we witness all this wickedness and all this nastiness and all this difficulty and all these things that we so intensely disagree with. And all of that fuels within us the temptation not to love. The opposite of love is hate. And people succumb to that. They just allow their negativity to build up to the point where they are hateful, angry, upset people. That's the reality that we need to face. The only way we can face it is to love. That's the only cure. It's the only real medicine for this illness is love. We just have to love one another. We have to love the change. We have to love the chaos. We have to love the uncertainty. We have to love whatever it is. Let that love power, that love energy get us through the little hang up and hiccup of the negativity that we would be stuck on. And the scripture, it really goes a long way to identifying with our feelings of devastation and our feelings of disgust and our feelings of negativity. It speaks to that, and you don't want to empower it. What you want to understand is that this is what it is to be human. To be human is to have these feelings of upset. That's part of what it is to be one of us, is that we're going to get pretty upset when things happen that we don't like and that are taking the world in directions that we don't like, and decisions are made and stuff happens and things change, and it's just really easy to fall into that. So verse 15, when you see the desolating sacrilege spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take what is in his house. Let him who is in the field not turn back to take his mantle. Alas, for those who are with child and those who are nursing in those days. Pray that your flight may not be in winter or on a Sabbath. For then there will be a great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. And if those days had not been shortened, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. If those days had not been shortened, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. Now, there is no end to how upset we can get over the changes we don't like in the world. You can get as upset as you want to get. What we saw recently, that horrible insurrection and riot in Washington, D.C., people got upset. They got upset. There's no limit to how upset you can get. The scripture says, the anger of man worketh not the righteousness of God. We can get angry. We can get upset. And Jesus is referring to an event that actually happened prior to his speaking these words, which was when the Greeks tried to set up a statue of Zeus in the temple, in callous disregard for the Jewish prohibition against graven images. They set up a graven image in the temple. This was, you can find this in the books of Maccabees and in the history of the Maccabean War. The point is that atrocities happen. Horrible things happen. Terrible catastrophes happen. And when they happen, they pull our strings, and they give us pain, and they give us sorrow, and they take us into these very dark spiritual places, causing us to give way to the power of negativity. Okay. We have to let it go. We have to understand. And I find a very interesting statement here in if those days had not been shortened. If those days had not been shortened, no human being would be saved, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. Now, that verb used twice about being shortened. If those days had not been shortened, past tense. Interestingly, it already happened. The days have been shortened. The days of tribulation. The next one, those days will be shortened, is future. And the way to understand this apocalyptic text is that it speaks to all time, and it speaks to all places. It's not limited to just 2021. It's not just about the current time. It's all time. It's all people. It's all places. That we all witness the worst of tribulation. What's the worst of tribulation? The worst of tribulation is the tribulation you and I have to go through. Everybody else's tribulation is just, that's fine. But when you and I go through it, when we go through it, when it's happening to us, that's the worst it ever is. That's that statement that says that you will see this tribulation. Verse 21, there will be a great tribulation such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. That's the personal thing. That's us. That's our situation. And so I find that this text just so deeply identifies with what it means to be human, what it means to be a person. When you're having sorrow, when you're having pain, when you're having tribulation, that is the worst of the worst. Okay? God understands that. And the point is that you have to see that has happened in the past. If those days had not been shortened, past, future, if those days will not be shortened, you see, what happens now, happened in the past, happens in the future, because we human beings are striving for something eternal. And in eternity, we will see the past, the present, the future. Tribulation in the past, tribulation in the present, tribulation in the future. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta go through it. Gotta just let it be what it is. And God will bless us. And so, for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. And that brings us to the conclusion of part 3. Now we're going to pick up, if you want to stay tuned, we'll be back with part 4.